Multiversus is dead. Okay, I'm joking about the dead part, but what I will say is that Multiversus is in a rough state at the moment. So I'm here to offer 3 concerns that I see as a top player and how the devs can go about fixing it. So if you guys would like to see more from me, subscribing and liking is greatly appreciated. To start with, possibly the biggest complaint I've heard is the dodging system. Now if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm referring to the lack of end lags a lot of moves seem to have. Many characters can simply dodge out of their attacks for free, whether it whiffs or not, and while that's a design choice made by the devs to dodge out of your attacks to dodge cancel it, what it ultimately does is grants players very small opportunities to punish players who miss their moves. A very great example of this is Batman and how he can dodge very early out of all of his moves, and when you combine this with Batarang, the character simply becomes overbearing at top level, and the built-in dodge decay system doesn't do nearly enough to circumvent this. To address this issue without upsetting the core gameplay too much, I feel like to increase how strong dodge decay is. That way people who spam dodge won't be able to be invincible when they're dodging, because that's really the main issue, is that dodging has very high reward and very little risk. There's no real risk to missing your dodge because you can just dodge out of it again. So that way the game can still keep its fast speed that I know it wants to keep, while also keeping those players in check who try to spam dodge. It won't be as effective as it is now. And although this is a really big issue, fixing the issue while keeping the core gameplay intact is rather difficult, because if you do it too much, the game will become a lot slower, which I know is not the intention. Hopefully, if any of the game devs watch this, they can use this as a starting board to address it in another way, because this is the only idea I have at the moment, but I feel like this would help to start to address the issue. For the second concern, this isn't really a core gameplay aspect, but it is the lack of content. I understand that this game is in beta. I understand that this game has only been out for probably a month and some days now. At the same time, I feel like it's still missing a lot of the key components that would help the game to at least thrive and hold over before the devs get to actually add their big content updates. For example, the ranked mode that they had promised for, I believe it was over a month ago now, is still not out, which I understand it takes time to develop, but it's just hurting the player base and the replayability at the moment. When I log on now, I only really play when there's a new character that they added. There's nothing to really hold me over until those updates happen. I feel like a ranked system, again, would help a lot, but this is already common knowledge. The main issue I really wanted to talk about is the sort of weird character balancing and updates. This may not mean a whole lot to the casual side of Multiversus, but these character patches go a long way for the game in terms of its longevity and people playing it on both sides of the spectrum. And a lot of the character updates haven't been too helpful or substantial for the most part. For instance, I'm aware that Batman is still being worked on and adjusted, but his Batarang is still dominant whenever you throw it out and basically wins neutral for him in a lot of situations. And we still have characters like Harley Quinn or Bugs Bunny with pseudo infinites, and these aren't being addressed, which I find kind of odd. Other characters are receiving nerfs or these very minute changes that aren't really helping too much, and a lot of the big nerfs that need to be happening, or just the big adjustments to characters, aren't really being made. And it's just kind of weird because it feels like they're being overlooked and are being instead met with minute changes that don't really do anything for the character. And this issue kind of ties into my third statement, but there shouldn't really be any true combos to death in the game. Really, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I know Harley's is really hard to pull off, but the fact that it is still there, it's just like when Kazuya in Smash Ultimate, he has a lot of combos that will just lead into true 0 to deaths that you can't really do anything about once you get into them, and it's just not fair to fight against. But leading into my third point is the inconsistency with characters and their roles. Now, what I mean by this is characters like Bugs Bunny are mages, meaning that they rely on their projectiles and are usually zoners. Yet, a lot of the times, Bugs Bunny has longer combo strings than assassins or bruisers themselves, which are the DPS class of the game, if you will. I still don't know why Bugs Bunny can do stuff like this, because I know for a fact he has longer combo strings than someone like Garnet, who's a bruiser class, by the way. That's just me, though. These are the biggest examples of role inconsistency that I personally experienced, and I feel re-looking into each character and seeing if their role is accurate would help a lot. But even with what I just mentioned, Multiversus is still doing pretty well post-launch, and I'd like it to continue its success, since it's still fun for others. Me personally, I haven't played as much for a while, but I'm hoping with more updates to the game, I'm sure it'll bring players like me and other people who stopped playing back. I appreciate you guys watching the video, and subscribe if you enjoyed. Let me know how you feel about any of the points I made. I'd like to come together and help give a solid review to help the devs out with their future updates. See you guys later. Love and light.
Yeah, make sure y'all subscribe to my boy.